Your favorite commander is probably cringe, but it might be cool. In this video, I'm taking a look at some of the most popular commanders of all time, and we're gonna decide if they're cool or if they're cringe. Plus, I'll tell you which commanders on this list are ultra cool and which are ultra cringe. Shall we? Welcome to Magic the Gathering. I am your host, and
I'm sorry, little one.
we're probably going to destroy some of your favorite commanders today, unless you pick the good ones. You know, it's up to you. This video is part 3 of my ongoing series looking at the top 100 commanders of all time, according to EDH Rec, and deciding if they're cool or if they're cringe. Today we're tackling numbers 51 through 75. You know, it's just a really meaty part of the pack. And if it's any consolation to you, there are actually more cool commanders on this list than cringe commanders. At this point, you probably know the drill. If it's dynamic, if it's open-ended, if it's unique, it's cool. But if it's OP, if it's one note, if it's stinky, much like its proverbial pilot, then it's probably cringe. Let's jump in. Starting off at 75 is Captain Negathrid. You know what? Let's not. What the hell are we starting with? Yes, cringe. Oh my gosh. Do people enjoy playing this? What's wrong with you? To be fair, I am kind of biased against decks that just steal and play other people's stuff. I just don't understand the idea of building a deck of 99 cards and then saying, no, I'm gonna use your things. Why do you want to use other people's stuff? Look, you can have the mill ability, that's fine. But giving all of your creatures menace so they make contact and then stealing stuff and playing it at no cost, it's a little too much for me. I think you're a greedy little child. I don't like it, okay? Can you tell I've been hurt by this deck? 74, Sisay Weatherlight Captain is cringe. I'm sorry. I get that it's a great way to collect all your favorite legends in one place, but any deck that relies on a tutor ability is just so boring and it's so one note. You're gonna play it one way. And you can say, Jaren, no, I tutor based on the board and based on the threats. And look, you can say that to me and you can tell yourself that, but in reality, we both know that you're just going for the game-winning combo piece every time. Don't you kind of get tired of that? 73, Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir. Cool, very cool. For being a tribal commander, this deck actually plays in a really dynamic and diverse way. I feel like a lot of tribal commanders are just focused on either making your guys stronger or making them harder to block or something. But Sidar Jabari says, no, you're gonna draw, you're gonna discard, you're gonna fill up your graveyard, and you're gonna bring stuff back. And they will just all happen to be knights. I feel like it allows you to approach building this thing with much more nuance in which cards you include or which angle you want to push more. I think it's a very multifaceted commander, and in my opinion, it's like a more fair way to do Eminence, which typically feels pretty unfair. 72 is Zaxara, the Exemplary. Yeah, come on. You think it's fair to play a Death Touch commander that taps for 2 mana, and when you happen to play, Goldvein Hydra, you can also say twins. It is a perfect Hydra commander. I definitely get that. But the momentum that it's able to get with even just like one key piece, like doubling season, it just feels like it's too much advantage. Do I hate it because it's too powerful? No, I don't. First of all, I don't hate it. Second of all, yeah, that is why I hate it. 71 is Henzie, Toolbox Torre. Cool as can be. Henzie, for my money, is just kind of the perfect Jund commander. And here's why. He's low cost. His ability is open-ended, letting you bring a lot of creativity to building your deck. He's got some card draw. Plus, the more that you play him in a game, the better and the more flavorful and the richer that he gets, like the pasta water at the end of a dinner rush at Olive Garden. He craves the big stompy ETBs of green, he craves the speed and recklessness of red, and he wants the death triggers of black. And you get them all. I highly recommend Henzie. He's one of the coolest designs on this list. 70, Omnath, Locus of Creation. Ooh, I don't know about this one. Gaining 4 life once a turn is fine, and dealing 4 damage once a turn doesn't really bug me. It's the 4 mana that kind of feels like a little bit too much. I like how tiered it is and how it limits you but still pushes you to hit that benchmark every single turn. But I mean, show me a landfall deck that isn't hitting a minimum of like 2 or 3 lands each turn, you know? It just doesn't exist. And landfall decks are some of the most notoriously trigger heavy and oppressive to deal with, making Omnath maybe too obnoxious and just a little too much to stomach. I think I'm just gonna put a question mark here and let you guys decide in the comments. I don't know where to put him. He could live in Cringe jail or be free with the cooler guys, and you decide. I don't know. 69, the First Sliver. You know, we can just skip this one. I mean, come on. Of course it's cringe. In fact, it's ultra cringe. I have yet to play against a Sliver deck that didn't make me feel like this when I got into my car to go home. Look, slivers are no joke, and even at a low level, they're a problem, and they go from problem to uncontainable in an instant. There's no world where simply running a little bit of interaction can keep a sliver player in their place, you know? It's always like you have to babysit them with removal to make sure that the game is fair. And cascading off of everything in your deck that chains together is decidedly broken, right? To the First Sliver players watching this, who hurt you? 68, Ezio Auditore de Firenze is sadly cringe, and they are so close to not being cringe. But let's go through it. Okay, so 2 mana, that's cool. The free running thing, great. Menace, awesome. There it is. Okay, so 2 things on this. So when the design team was making this card, it just sort of feels like they were saying, you know, we need a commander that can collect all of the cards from the set in one place. Let's slap this onto Ezio. Which isn't a huge deal, you know, I feel like they kind of did that with Aang in the Airbender set. But to be fair, with Aang, you know, he could bend all 4 elements and the 4 colors, and it made a little more sense for his card, whereas with Ezio, it just feels like they sort of stapled it onto him. But second, and more importantly, I take issue with any sort of lose the game type of ability or win the game type of ability. I mean, why would you want to run cards and play commanders that sort of circumvent playing the game? You know, it just seems cheap and lame. I am sorry, Assassin's Creed fans. I love the games. I love Ezio. I just don't like this card design. 67, Urza, High Lord Artificer. You know him, you hate him. Of course he's cringe. I think Urza is actually one of the main reasons that mono blue players get such a bad rap. He's so insanely difficult to contend with, and I feel like he just offers an unfair amount of value. And even playing him outside CEDH, you're always going to be the archenemy. It's a deck that thrives off of a flood of mana and stacks pieces, and that is just so over the top for me. I don't think the command zone should give as much as Urza is giving. I love you, Urza players, but please just keep your winter orbs in your pants. 66, Arabella, Abandoned Doll. Cool. It's pretty uncommon to see a card on the top 100 commanders list that is, in fact, uncommon. The space that this commander occupies is pretty broad and a little nasty, which is sick. Flood your board with little creatures, tokens or otherwise, gain life, and ping everyone around you. It's also a commander that bounces back from removal really fast and spreads like a virus. It's fast, it's low to the ground, and I feel like it punishes the board pretty evenly. And I think it's pretty interesting in Boros, which for me is just kind of a more boring color combo, but hey. It's an awesome card. 65, Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. You knew it was coming, and you knew it was going to be cringe. I like this ability. I do. I think it's really impactful. It's really powerful. I just hate it in the command zone. In my opinion, it's too cheap for what it does. It's in Simic, which just feels like rage bait, honestly. And it combos unfairly with too many things. Look, this commander is fun, you know, if you want to win the game on turn 3, but sorry, I don't think that's fun. 64, Xyris, the Writhing Storm. Cool, right? It's group hug. Hang on. It's whenever. Wait, no, this thing sucks. This thing is cringe. Unique as it may be, getting a snake on every non-upkeep draw is psychotic. You can pretend that letting your opponents draw this way is purely political, and I definitely appreciate what this thing is trying to do, but it's over the line. There's just no ceiling on the snakes, and making that many unregulated snakes that often in the ways that this deck will, that is cringe. It's overwhelming, it's fast, and it's too exponential. 63, Oloro, Ageless Ascetic. Cringe. Oloro was designed in an era before I feel like we knew what commanders were supposed to feel like and what they were supposed to do. To me, Oloro just feels like an early draft. And honestly, it's not that he's broken, it's just that he's really boring. I understand that he's probably a commander you want to run when you're doing Esper life gain, but is that even true nowadays? You've got Y'shtola, you've got Xur, you've got Alenda and Azor, you've got Quasar. And I think those are all way more interesting builds. I just don't feel like he's a commander worth getting that excited about. But if you play him, please tell me in the comments what the appeal is, because I'm not really getting it. 62, Go-Shintai of Life's Origin. Totally cool. I think this was the commander that when we all first saw it, we were sort of collectively like, ooh, I want to build that. And on the surface, it may seem a little linear, but I think the fact that it collects and gathers together such a unique card type that it feels fresh and distinct. Between all the Kamigawa stuff and some of the new Avatar stuff, you have enough to build it in a really cool and fresh way. And the first ability actually allows you to kind of widen this and just be a really fun place to collect all of your enchantments. I especially love a deck that takes commons and uncommons and sort of elevates them to new really powerful places, and that is this commander. 61 is Ygra, Eater of All. He is so cool, man, for so many reasons. His ability to sort of just change the role and function of cards on the battlefield at large is really unique and really interesting. Right out the gate, you can just make this a straightforward food token deck, and it would run really well and it would do awesome things. But since he makes every creature food, you can actually go really wide with creature tokens here and get a bunch of good sack outlets and just juice Ygra to high heaven. Plus, run a ton of sacrifice effects for your opponents to the same end. It's so distinct, and I just wish more commanders transformed the board in the way that Ygra does. 60, Obeka, Splitter of Seconds. I don't know, man. I think I gotta call this one cringe. Which is weird, because it's a commander that both does a lot on its turns, but does so much waiting around. I really don't like commanders that require combat damage to do their thing. And I'm sure that in videos past, I have endorsed commanders that do combat damage, and maybe there's some exceptions to the rule. But as a rule, I'll just say here and now, combat damage commanders are just kind of weak and boring. I mean, Obeka does have insane turns. You get like 5 of those court cards on the battlefield, and you start triggering a bunch of stuff, and it starts stacking. It honestly is going to start to feel like a hate crime.
That's not what a hate crime is.
Well, I hated it.
But waiting for that big splashy moment to come can feel a little dull. Plus, you're going to be using the same handful of cards over and over again, and I think this commander is just going to feel a little tiresome after a while. 59 is Glarb, Calamity's Augur. So cool. So cool. In fact, ultra cool. His art, his colors, his open-ended abilities. Man, I love Glarb. And honestly, I am such an addict for top of deck peeking and playing. It honestly doesn't get much more accessible than this. Lands and larger cost spells off the top of your library, go wild. Whatever creatures, enchantments, artifacts, sorceries you want to play, dump them in. Glarb is gonna make them sing. And then he says, hold up, I'm gonna let you filter a little bit. In fact, I'm gonna fill up your graveyard a little bit so you can do some stuff there. I mean, what does this frog not do? Play those extra lands, turn your library into a fountain of joy, and praise the frog. 58, Hearthhole the World Seed. Very cool and very unique. First of all, it's the only space station on this list, so you know, good for Hearthhole. But one of my favorite things about Hearthhole is that he's not actually a creature, and you don't even have to make him one to make the deck run really well. And that makes it that much harder for your opponents to contend with and remove. Land sacrifice decks are really fun because of the resource management. You know, it's lands in, lands out. What can I get away with? How can I push this further? It makes really exciting turns. It's a little risky, which I think just makes it that much cooler. 57 is Toph, the First Metalbender. Cool. It is a flavorful masterpiece. And like Ygra, it actually changes the dynamic of a lot of the things on your board, opening the door for some really cool strategies. Earthbending as a mechanic is really powerful, and honestly, I feel like it's underplayed in Commander. The goal of the deck is to spread the love of earthbending far and wide, and to make all of your artifacts do work for you. It's bold, and it's kind of odd for Naya, but I think that's what makes me like it even more. And it's got enough support with artifacts and earthbending that you can make this thing super powerful. 56, Cloud X Soldier. Cool. This one is kind of sick because it does what a lot of Voltron commanders want to do, only much better. To be honest, I don't really like Voltron decks. I feel like they're a little too precarious for me. But the fact that this commander rewards you for going not tall, but wide with your equipment is really interesting and very gratifying. He's kind of built to be the perfect equipment commander. I mean, he's got 3 really strong colors. You get an auto equip when you play him, and he has haste. He's a Final Fantasy gem, and he comes in a really great precon. 55, Flubs the Fool. He is cool, but he is a war criminal as well. If you've never had the awe-inspiring displeasure of playing against him, I highly recommend it. Mean as this commander can be, it's like watching one of those guys do the piano organ things where they pull all the things with the bells and the whistles going off. It's a spectacle. It's too narrow and weird and sporadic to be cringe, in my opinion. You're really just trying to empty your hand, and maybe you go landfall, maybe you exile a bunch of stuff. However you want to do it, there's a lot of ways to succeed. It's such an oddball commander that I genuinely love playing against it and likely losing against it. 54 is Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier. Surprisingly cool, and I'll tell you why, because I don't actually think he is as mean as he seems. I think the fact that it gives an emblem is pretty rare. And the death trigger thing that pings and gains life is nothing that new or horrible, and I don't think it's that cruel. It's nothing that we haven't already seen. I think the biggest thing that a Sephiroth player is going to be doing is primarily just sacrificing their own stuff to draw a ton of cards, which is really fun. As far as aristocrat commanders go, I actually really like this one. Like any good aristocrat deck, you're gonna need a lot of key pieces in place, but I can see how this thing is just gonna hum and do work and be a lot of fun to pilot. 53, Kefka Court Mage. Kefka, man. He's cringe, and if you enjoy playing decks like this, I'm concerned, and I've already called your parents. The front side is fine. We should have just stopped there. We should have just taken a breath and said, this is good. But the back side breaks Geneva Conventions, I think. And yeah, I know you can remove it, but probably not before everyone has taken a Torment of Hellfire to the face and they've drawn 20 plus cards. It is truly mean-spirited, and I think if you can jump through the hoops to pull it off, maybe you deserve the win. I know that some of you freaks are just looking at Kefka and licking your lips, and I don't get it. 52 is Bello, Bard of the Brambles. He's cool, and I think he's actually one of the most unique builds on this list, which is why he's so popular. For having just a wall of text with no keyword abilities, he shockingly offers a ton of value. Putting your best enchantments and artifacts onto the battlefield, making them do work, making them untouchable, and getting some card draw on the way out is really awesome. I especially like the flavor of this and it being in Gruul. As an anti-Gruulite, I actually find myself really drawn to Bello. And time again, I look at him thinking, maybe I'll build him, because he is that cool. There's a lot of really sick ways to build him. And lastly, at 51 is Fire Lord Azula. Cool. I love Azula as a card and as a character. For a deck limited to combat only, which typically bugs me, she can surprisingly get a lot done and be a lot of fun. And she gives you a little fuel to start the fire. It's pretty simple, but it can get so nasty. Dumping in all of your flashable creatures and enchantments and just spamming instants makes your turns so explosive. And if you're feeling sinister, just double and triple up those combats. Like any combat focused deck, you're gonna wanna run a ton of protection. But this is a really cool way to proverbially punch your friends in the face. Woo, we made it. What do you think? Do you agree with my takes? Did I blaspheme? Please harangue or validate me in the comments below. If you haven't watched, go watch part 1 and part 2 of the Cooler Cringe Commander series to get the rest of the list. And the final part of this list will be out soon, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and join the Sagic community. We have a lot of fun here. As always, follow Sagic for more magic. See you next time.